we find ourselves again joining our three adventurers as each of them finds their way, for one reason or another, towards the town of Eyrr. A mining town, a place surrounded by mountains, aside from its southern entrance, in which is a great wall built of ice and stone that stands as tall as two men, with one single entry, a gate. And as each of our heroes make their way towards the town, they see a line passing through, people with carts, with wares to flog at the festival to come. And each of them travelling from different directions, as if brought together by fate, find themselves all stood near each other in this slow-moving queue. A strange meeting. A dusk runner, an executioner, and a runaway winter elf.
Ailfryd would try not to appear like he's looking at this elf, because especially one that, is pretty sure that's a young elf. It's just kind of out of place from his experience. So, it'd be one of those things where he's, trying not to look, but it's obvious that he's looking because he's not that... He doesn't have guile like that. He's pretty straightforward.
Sorcha has enough presence of mind to have, thrown a hood on over herself, and she's pretty well covered, but she definitely looks out of place by posture, because she's just sort of looking around, a bit overwhelmed by the new sights and just trying to get her bearings, whilst also looking like she's meant to be here and not looking guilty at all.
As you all stand there, awkwardly looking between each other, waiting in this slow-moving line, a gentleman behind you, a little shorter than all of you, aside from perhaps Sorcha, as they seem to be a human with light brown hair, pale skin with freckles, and some deep brown eyes. And their hair's a little messy, and they seem to have just removed a big fluffy hat and are wearing very thick clothing that, whilst it looks practical, all of you know the actual quality of it isn't that good. A Midlander, it seems. Someone from the Commonwealth. And he looks over at all of you and simply states, "Oh, so you're all locals, are you?"
Sure.
Yes, of course.
I am from around.
From around, right? Is that a northern village, or?
It is most of them. I don't have a home, as it is.
Oh, a nomad. That makes... Very well. That makes much more sense than a naming convention which would consist of people calling places, round. He says as he looks over all of you and sees the expressions of just blankness, and awkwardly lets out a little laugh. So, Winter Festival, right? How is it? Have you been before? I've heard good things.
No.
I do not go to the towns that much, but this your first time?
Yes, it is, actually. I'm from further down south in the Midlands,
I could tell.
the great city of Arius.
Sure.
I'm a trader, he says, kind of patting his mule on the side. His mule has a big coat on it.
You've come a long way.
I have, yes. It's been quite a month or so of travel. I've lost track of much of the time, but the wares, luckily, are not exactly as expirable, so that works out. I've always wanted to come to the north, so I thought Winter Festival, it's a good time. I've heard it's beautiful.
Karis will adjust the belt that keeps her great axe on her back and kind of just shift because we've been standing here a while. And she says, "Well, festival's a pretty good time. I've only been once before, long time ago, but it's a good time."
Right. It's a mighty big axe you have.
It's real dangerous up north. You know, bears.
Yes, we lost at least 7 people to bears, wolves, and the like. Horrible. I very dangerous roads. It's not the same where I'm from.
Are you not accustomed to travel?
Well, yes, but in the Midlands, it's much...
You don't have bears?
No, they stick to the woods, normally. You see, we have very established roads, and not much of the wildlife goes near them. Mostly problems of bandits, but not quite that big bears. I've seen bears bigger than a man, but not bigger than 3. They call them dire bears.
Oh, yes. You'll get used to them.
You get used to them? He says, his voice pitching up.
Well, if you survive.
Oh, yes, delightful. Maybe I'll stay here for a while. For the winter's harsh here, he says, as the line begins to move forward slightly.
That it is. Perhaps I will find you. I can tell you many roads to go back. Safer roads.
That would be amazing. It would be nice to get back before, of course, the turn of the season. But hopefully it will go well here. I hope, people may like the goods.
What are your goods?
I'm glad you asked, he says, and he goes over and he sort of peels back the sort of sheet cover that's on the top of it. And inside you see what looks to be some very interesting clothing. It's what is currently in fashion in the Midlands, and there are different colours that aren't quite as sort of dull and toned down as you're used to in the north. There are reds, there's purples, deep blues. Seems to be bringing different types of clothing for different occasions, all tailored and made. And he also seems to be bringing what looks to be different fancy-looking leather sheaths for blades and the like. I hear you don't get much of this sort of clothing up here, so I thought... good market, possibly.
Sorcha's on this immediately and leaning way in to look at all of this. She sort of reaches for one of the items of clothing to hold it up. I have never seen a colour like this before.
Oh yes, that's purple.
Oh.
It's very popular with the nobles.
It's so bright. It's like a flower.
It is, yes. It's kind of where they fashion it from, as far as it goes. But yes, clothing, he says, and covers it again. It's, luckily all kept. Not much of it's been stolen, so... Yes, he says as the line moves again.
Not much of it. Do you have a problem with thieves?
Well, yes. See, not everybody on the caravan, so to speak, is very, above board. Some of them like to take from what they're protecting.
Above board, what does that mean?
Well, you can lose a hand for that around here, so you should be careful.
You should pay them more.
Paying them more sounds good, but I use a lot of my money to come here. It's very hard to find caravans willing to go to the north.
Yes. Mostly those that want not to be found. Hence thieves.
That makes a lot of sense, he says, and it's at this time that you all get pushed towards the gates, these sort of very wide, open-looking gates, with multiple members of guards on duty. Unlike much of the rest of the northern clans who wear leathers, hide, furs, the people of Eyrr seem to fashion armor out of metals, and you see some of them wearing a combination of leather and metal on them, from breastplates and the like, but with harder leather underneath and around, keeping their maneuverability that they need so badly.
She's quite distracted by that as these guards come closer into view. She's just sort of staring incredulously at this completely unwieldy looking stuff they're wearing.
Xarris is fidgeting a bit as they get closer to the gate, pulling her sleeves down a bit more over her hands.
Ailfryd, going into a city, it's kind of nervous, so the fact that this merchant is actually talking to him, since he's usually a bit of an outsider, he's actually kind of latching onto that. You have good craftsmanship, but I would focus on the city-born nobles. No one who walks the wilds would wear this. I hate to be blunt, but I'm pretty sure that those that were killed were probably wearing brighter colors.
Oh.
Things in nature are drawn to that.
That would make sense. We did have an ex-court jester that was coming up north, and he insisted on wearing his uniform, but, well, he wasn't laughing. Oh, the screams.
No, you're never laughing at the end.
Well, that's... I don't know if that was a joke, but it was quite amusing. And the line moves forward as the two of you at the front, Xarris, Sorcha, you're met by two guards at the front. They both seem armed, but friendly. They don't have their weapons out. They're at their sides, both wearing longswords. And they look at you both and nod. A bit suspiciously at you at first, Sorcha. And they look at your massive axe, Xarris. And they look between each other. So, I'm assuming that's for woodcutting, says the older one of the two as he smiles at you slightly.
That and bears.
Woodcutting and bear cutting. Makes sense. Well, it all seems to check out for me. Go on through. And remember, when you're in there, don't go drawing your axe. If you do, you might get stabbed or worse, shot.
Yes, of course, just stays back here. Just kind of pats it.
Well, it looks like the kind of thing that wouldn't draw quickly, so we'll assume it won't do. And you be safe in there, and you and your daughter.
Yes, of course. Thank you.
We'll be very careful, yeah.
And as you walk through, you do hear a bit of talk behind you as the guy goes, they're having him younger and younger nowadays. I tell you.
Sorry if that was awkward. I didn't want to say anything. You seemed a bit nervous.
You know, that actually worked out. I was sort of afraid of what they were going to ask me if they noticed or wondered I.
Yeah, there's something a bit different about you. I can't quite put my finger on it.
Just the snow got all up on my face, and I just haven't had a chance to.
I'm Xarris, by the way.
I'm Mary. Sticks out her hand awkwardly.
Xarris will firmly grasp your hand. It's a strong shake. And you would notice that even though she tried to kind of pull her sleeves down a bit, there is a scar in the shape of an eye on the back of her hand.
That is quite a grip you've got.
Oh, thanks. Do a lot of physical labor.
And as you say that, we'll find our way back to the gate as, at this point, Ailfryd, the guard, sort of takes in what you are, looking at you, the way you're dressed, your wolf. So, I imagine you're looking after the caravan then, lad. He says, looking at you, Ailfryd.
Well, in the sense that I look over all those who travel the north, yes, but I've only known him a short time.
Hey, I can tell. And what's your name then, sir? He says, looking at your companion currently, as he looks over and goes, yes, of course. The name is Connor Vane. Ah, not a name from around here then. That makes sense. Well, I'm looking forward to what you're bringing. But, if the Way Watcher's with you, I mean, you can pass. There's no way I'd like to ever stop one of the Dusk Runners. It would be disrespectful. The Watcher's looking good upon you, lad.
Ailfryd just kind of nods a thanks. I'll see you around. He'll go in through the gate.
And you do so, and as you walk in, all of you, actually, now taking in your surroundings a little, you see stone houses with wood built into them, very stocky built and very blocky. And as you look, could you all give me a common knowledge check, please?
I mean, you subtract 1 from that, because I'm oblivious.
Okay, so you fail, Xarris, due to you being oblivious. Ailfryd, you easily succeed. You've been around the roads, you've seen a lot. And even you, Sorcha, you notice this building style because you've only heard of it in legends. There seems to be a heavy dwarven influence on the structures. The way the stones are placed so symmetrically throughout the construction. The way that the builds are slightly shorter in stature and yet seem very strong very sturdy, like they could stand many seasons and many storms. And as you look around, you see the many humans walking around in here in more fashionable clothing than would usually be the fare in the north, wearing their ceremonial clothes, you could say, less furred and much more of cotton and the like, leather stitched into some of it, and some wearing the furs perhaps around their neck as scarves and the like, small foxes, small creatures that they sort of adorn themselves with, and bone of good kills that they fashion into ornaments. And as you look around, you see many of these northern folk mixed with what seems to be people from the Midlands who have come on a visit, dressed in very different clothing, much less suited for the weather. But more than that, the swell of music, deeper within the town, hits your ears, and the smell of food, of spiced meats, of stews, of bread, washes over all of you.
At this point, coming through the gate, Ailfryd would kind of look around, wondering where to start first, and see maybe the two, the human and the obvious elf, trying not to look like an elf. Right at the end of their greeting, he comes through and, pardon me, and he's looking at Xarris. Are you from around here? I'm looking for, family.
Oh, I'm from further up north, Clan Bleakbone.
Heard tale of them.
I've been to this town before, though.
Well, then perhaps you can help me.
We can try.
Looking for a family with the sigil of 2 hammers and a pickaxe.
As you hear this, images flash in your mind of seeing people similar to that. They visited your village when you were younger. They came with money, with oars. Could you please give me a very quick common knowledge check?
So, that's a 1?
You remember that family sigil? Ah, yes. The dead family. You're sure you executed the rest of them? You think? Maybe.
We've seen the sigil before. Don't think there's a whole lot of them left alive, but we can check.
Yes, well, there is one less even now, so I must find them.
Sorry.
Well,
Did you, or did you just, what is it, was it a bear?
And you see his kind of, he already has like pretty pale skin, pretty fair skin, right? Dark hair. But you actually see him go a shade paler when you say, was it a bear? No, I happened upon someone on the road.
Oh.
And I only found a ring, so
Right.
I'm trying to at least see that the knowledge is passed to next of kin, and seeking justice.
And as you say that, Sorcha, looking at the man, you saw that paleness, you saw that reluctance almost, and finding a way around, and you don't even need to make a notice check, as you know that something about the way he said that, it runs through your mind that maybe the same creatures that you're looking for are the ones that he's seen.
Pardon. What happened to the body?
Well, I had been tracking animals, dead, not eaten, but taken apart, almost like sport. And I followed a trail and found a young boy, probably 17. His face was gone. Not ripped off, but skinned. Taken. Something terrible did this, I'm sure. And there was the smell.
What did you smell?
There was a smell of sulfur.
And as you hear the word sulfur, you're thrown back into a memory. You remember yourself running through the snows, step after step crunching in it, just as it always does, but these stood out almost like somebody ringing a hammer off of a gong next to your ear. You could hear your heart thumping as you saw a distant mass in the snow. You saw red. You went to see it. And when you did, you saw a creature, butchered, horribly, but cleanly. You saw bones sliced with no break. You saw a mess, almost like it had toyed with the thing. No predator would do this. They'd eat. This wasn't eaten. And it's next to that you smelled. Sulfur. And you saw one of the single reminders that your teacher had been here. And you followed. Your heart hammering in your chest so hard that your ears were filled with that beat. Thump. Thump. And you finally saw it. His bow. Blood. But no body. And that smell. And now you smell spiced meats. And the cold is far less harsh. And you stand across from these two people.
I know what they are. I've seen what you're talking about.
You have seen the creature? Or have you seen its effects?
Everything you described sounds the same. And I told them they wouldn't believe me.
Please, child. He says this even though you can look at him and he's only like early 20s. But he does have like a worldliness about him that he seems older than he actually is. And a lot more kind of serious. But please tell me, did you actually see it? I have only heard tale, I have not seen it. But this is what I'm looking for.
I'm searching for them. And no, I just have signs of what they did. I think my teacher saw them, and I think he's looking for them. I have to find him. He left his bow behind. And she sort of shrugs a little. She kept that bow and did not bring it back with her to show the council. She kept it for herself, and that is the bow that she's left with.
You say that your teacher is looking?
I'm sure he must be. He wouldn't leave a threat like that unaccounted for.
I'm Ailfryd, by the way. I am a dusk runner.
As the two of you hear this, even you, Sorcha, you know of the Dusk Runners. You know that the other scouts of the Winter Elves do sometimes meet them. They sometimes talk with them. They're friendly folk, useful, helpful. They're people who roam this land. They keep the roads as safe as they can, which in the north is not very, but without them, it would be deadly all the time. They make it workable. They help travelers. They hunt things that shouldn't be on the roads. And the same with you, Xarris. You've seen them before. You've had some pop through town. You've met them. Noble folk.
Yeah, Xarris will give a head bow of respect towards Ailfryd. It's a pleasure to meet you, Xarris.
Call me Mary.
I have a question. You are from... And he kind of looks under the hood, and he lowers his voice.
She tugs the hood down.
You are from the Winter Courts.
There's a little tug to pull her hood down ever so slightly more to shadow those bright violet eyes. And a quick look about in either direction, and her eyes sort of briefly go to Xarris. And
The look, like a slow dawn of realization, comes over Xarris as she's like, that's what was off. But she doesn't say anything, she's just kind of like, oh.
Yes.
Have you ever known your master to be without his bow?
Well, no, of course not. None of us ever would be.
And you see a look kind of come over Ailfryd's face. These beasts... No, not beasts.
Monsters.
Fiends. My mentor told me of them. There's something you should know about the body I found. His face was taken. Because these fiends do this. They take the face and the guise of those they kill.
That's... what are you... I found his bow, I did not find his body.
Have they been known to snatch whole people before? Bodies?
Well, yes, I mean, if you are impersonating someone, you don't want their body found. So...
He's far too good for that. He would not have been caught unawares by something like this. I know that.
And it's as you think that, and it's as they mention, yes, they would take whole bodies. Xarris, you're thrown back into a simpler time. A young girl. You were innocent almost back then. And you remember the scream. You remember the blood-curdling scream that came from just outside of your window, and as you looked out, scared, hands shaking, you saw something. Something that shouldn't be. It was almost like a human, but the limbs were wrong. The legs, strangely attached, too long. The feet clawed. The flesh a strange color and slick with some sort of liquid, thick liquid that glistened in the moonlight. And you remember the hand of it against your own mother's head, clasping the entire thing in one clawed hand. And her scream as it ran, dragging her through the snow, impossibly quick. And you remember your father going out, looking for her, looking all night, and your fear being left in there, your terror alone after what you saw in him returning, his face pale in the morning, unable to find her. You remember him drinking. And you remember him listening to what you said, and telling you it's fine. Everything's okay. But you remember that no one ever listened to your father or you. Never. And you're back in that town with these two people who've told you that what you saw was real.
And it's Xarris's turn to be a few shades paler than she was just a moment ago. So they're real then?
You know what these things are?
Maybe. I saw something years ago. Me dad did too. They took me mum. It wasn't human. It was wrong. Like if you took the legs of a spider and put claws on the end of it and attached it to a torso. The hands were just a gesture about how large the hands would be. Wasn't right. Moved possibly fast. Strong.
Well, it's not
This
going to
was
stop me.
ages ago. 13 years or so. 14.
It seems like fortune or fate has brought us here. It does not matter the time. Your mother was taken. The Dusk Runners are a service of justice. And I will see it served.
This has been Tales from a Hollow World, a dark fantasy audio drama set in an original fantasy setting powered by the Savage Worlds Adventure Edition role-playing game. Sorcha, the Winter Elf Scout, is played by Jess of Little Cup of Joe. Xarris, the Human Executioner, is played by Lindy of Laugh Love Lindy. Ailfryd, the Half-Elf Duskrunner, is played by Pruitt of WebDM. Find new episodes as they release on iTunes or YouTube at youtube.com/hollowtale.